My message to President Putin, Mr. Putin, tear down this wall, the wall of war, intimidation, and military aggression. Let's stop. Let's conduct.
That was Ukraine's interim prime minister at the White House today after meeting with President Obama. Today, President Obama once again called Russia's invasion of Crimea a violation of international law. President Obama said that if the Russian government continues to try to annex Crimea, there will be an unspecified cost.
We will continue to say to the Russian government that if it continues on the path that it is on, then not only us, but the international community, the European Union and others will be forced to apply a cost to Russia's violations of international law and its encroachments on Ukraine. There's another path available, and we hope that President Putin is willing to seize that path.
Secretary of State John Kerry will go to London on Friday to meet once again with the Russian foreign minister just 2 days before the Crimean voters decide whether they want to continue as part of Ukraine or become part of the Russian Federation. Joining me now, Stephen Cohen, New York University professor of Russian and Slavic Studies. Stephen, it seems like the next big event here is going to be that vote. What will be the import of it when the votes are counted?
Give me 30 seconds to say where I think we are now, because the vote goes in this context. I don't want to disturb your listeners who are going to go to bed after watching you, but I think we're 3 steps from war with Russia. 2 steps to a new Cuban Missile Crisis.
Stephen, you've just disturbed our listeners.
Well, I'm trying to get the attention of unwise lawmakers, both in Moscow and in Washington and Europe. I can't tell you how serious this is. There is a proposal in Washington and Europe to move NATO troops to the West Ukrainian-Polish border. Planes are already on the Polish airstrip. If that happens, I believe Putin will mobilize those 150,000 troops he was practicing last week and move them into southern and eastern Ukraine. That's the Cuban Missile Crisis. The next step, we lived through it, is war. Now, if you want to go to the referendum on Sunday in that context, I follow you now.
Well, I can see why you needed to get that out first. I guess we can only hope that those are just the stunting that is commonly done in these situations with troops and ships and that sort of thing. But to the vote on Sunday, what do you see as the outcome, and where does that leave the players?
2 things are happening. President Obama and Secretary of State Kerry are telling Putin, and it's an ultimatum, and no Russians like ultimata, that if they go ahead with this vote, and remember what the Crimean people are being asked to vote on. Do you want to be in the Russian Federation, or do you want to be an independent republic and remain within Ukraine for now? I don't know how that vote will go. But we're essentially saying to Putin, if you go ahead with any move to bring Crimea into Russia, all diplomacy ends. If all diplomacy ends, Lawrence, what's next? War. Putin will not back down on this referendum. But I can tell you as a fact that in Moscow now there's a struggle around Putin about what to do with the result of the referendum. One side is saying, Putin, Crimea has always been Russia's. Let's just take it back and end this nonsense. The other side is saying, no, that might be such a provocation that war may result. Therefore, say you heard the Crimean people when they spoke on Sunday that they want to be in Russia, and we'll see. And then you begin to talk to the West with Crimea as your, Putin's, bargaining chip. And he's got to make a decision now which course he will follow.
And the truth is, there are no agreed-upon international principles about how you hold a vote like this. The United States is maintaining, if you're going to have this vote, it has to be all of Ukraine. But in Puerto Rico, for example, they're allowed to have their own vote on whether they want statehood, Commonwealth status, independence. And we don't say for them to get statehood, the entire United States would have to vote on it.
You know, there's some issues here that would be funny if it wasn't so serious. Both Putin and Obama went to law school. This whole thing's become a kind of shyster's lawyer's game. Obama says today that there's a constitutional process that stands behind the acting prime minister of Ukraine who visited Obama today. There is no constitution in Ukraine, the people who took power overthrew the Constitution. Putin's position is the government in Kiev, the capital of Ukraine, has no legitimacy in law. It's the deaf talking to the deaf.
Stephen Cohen gets tonight's last depressing word. Thank you very much for joining us, Stephen.